The Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.
We've got to talk about AFC Bournemouth being the draw specialists this season. Another draw again against Burnley. That's 2 draws against them this season, this weekend. And it means that we have now drawn 14 games of the 30 played this season. What do we make of it? What do I make of it? Let me know in the comments your thoughts, but also I will give you my thoughts here on the video. Now, a big thank you as well before we get going to our 2 sponsors. Firstly, Touchpoint Telecoms at touchpointtelecoms.co.uk for all your business telecoms needs anywhere between Blandford and Burnley and everywhere in between and further afield as well. And of course, Dental on the Banks at dentalonthebanks.co.uk. And here's a little bit about them now.
I should be like you, Mel.
So, another draw, another week has gone past, and AFC Bournemouth have failed to actually register 3 points. Is it becoming a little bit too samey? Do teams know what we're doing? I'm going to discuss all of that, plus this recent game against Burnley. Of course, we drew with them at Dean Court earlier on the season. We weren't particularly playing that well back then. However, I think we've improved significantly from that point. But we're still not getting the results that maybe we deserve. We are unbeaten since that 3-2 defeat against Arsenal, all the way back at the first week of January. That's quite some time. But at the end of the day, why can we not convert more of these results into victories? I'm going to dissect a couple of them and we'll go into it in a little bit more detail. But let's touch upon the recent game against the Clarets at Turf Moor. And in all honesty, I think it was a fair result in the end. Burnley, for all their trials and tribulations, and of course Scott Parker, they did have some good opportunities through Jaden Anthony hitting the crossbar at that point. I think, he was desperately unlucky not to get himself on the score sheet, and it would have been a complete and utter different scenario. I don't think, and don't get me wrong here, I don't think we deserve to lose that game. But, it was one of those games that could have gone either way. And against Burnley, we should have been a little bit more clinical. We should have been a little bit more to the point. We should have been a bit more direct. We weren't any of that. And that was what was really, really disappointing in this game. I know that everybody is going to mention it, so I might as well mention it now. Evan Nilsson's miss. In fact, he did the hard work to get himself in that position, and the miss was just so disappointing. It's just so disappointing, and it seems to be a common trend with Evan Nielsen this season. I'm not here to knock him or slag him off or anything like that. What I'm here to say is, my honest opinion, and my honest opinion is that he should be a little bit more clinical. It's something that needs to be worked at on the training ground. When he is in those positions where he is got a goal scoring opportunity, and it is something that he should convert, he seems to mess it up. Whereas the more difficult opportunities, he seems to score those. So, why is that? Is it a case that he's putting too much pressure on himself? Is it that he's not giving himself that little bit of time, which, in all honesty, at that moment, he probably had a fractional longer to actually make that move and actually convert it and strike the ball a lot better than he did. What is it with Evan Nielsen? I just don't understand why a player who is so good, and don't get me wrong, I am a fan of Evan Nielsen. A player that is so good and so highly thought of. He does a lot of work off the ball as well. He's a little bit like Solanke in his way that he will come back. He's a battler. He gets stuck in. Whereas I don't think Krupi is as much of that. But Krupi is more clinical. He will take his time, he will strike it, and he has got a great eye for a goal. So that's the big elephant in the room out of the way. I thought Marcus Tavernier was very good. And of course, again, he hit the bar. He was desperately unlucky as well, like Jaden Anthony. It could have easily ended 1-1 with those two on the score sheet. I think, honestly, he cannot be blamed at all. I think, he did a fantastic job. He was in the right places at the right time. His strikes were good. Just a bit unlucky, really, with Marcus Tavernier. Overall, I think that the team played subpar. I'm going to be honest. Did we really want it? Did Burnley want it? I think Burnley were very, very much a Scott Parker sort of team. We should have gone for the juggler, though. We should have gone for the juggler and maybe made it a little bit more wider, maybe stretched them a bit more. But we didn't do that. And this is the problem. This is the problem because you look at where we are in the Premier League. We are still just outside those European places, but they could easily start running away from us. I don't think that we're going to lose too much ground. I honestly don't. However, all it takes is for an Everton or a Brentford to have a little run, and we're out of the picture completely. And that will be gutting. That will be gutting, considering what we've done the early part of this season. We want to be in it right until the very, very end, but we won't be if we keep picking up draws. We've won 9 games, we've drawn 14. Okay, yes, we've only lost 7, and apart from the top 3, of course, Manchester United, Man City, and Arsenal. We've lost the least amount of games in the whole of the Premier League. But when you've got 14 draws to your name, that kind of counteracts that, unfortunately. I would rather a couple of those results ended in wins. So, and a couple of those ended in defeats. After all, you get 1 point for a draw, you get 3 points for a win. It would have counteracted and balanced itself out. You look at Newcastle, for an example, they've drawn 6 games. They've won 12 of them and they've lost 12 of them, but they are a point ahead of us, primarily because they have got those 3 points for those wins. And I think teams have worked us out a little bit. I think that they've worked out our high press, the way we play from the back. I think that Alex Jimenez in particular, they know what to expect from him. They know what to expect from Evan Nielsen. Krupi, they know he's a danger man. So we need to kind of mix it up a little bit. What are we going to do differently? Because you look at our recent results as well, and like I say, Ever since that defeat against Arsenal, we are unbeaten in the Premier League. We did have that bit of a bad run in November, which, to be honest, that run where we went from November to the start of January without a victory, when you look at that, there might have been the 6 defeats in there, but there were some decent draws as well against Chelsea, against Manchester United. That could have easily gone either way, to be perfectly honest. And of course, Chelsea again, going to Stamford Bridge and getting a draw, which again we could have easily won that game. But there was also some ropey results in there as well. Of course, as I say, the Burnley game at Dean Court was not particularly very good. So what is it that is wrong? Is it the substitutions? Is it that teams have worked this out? I think the Brighton game was a good example that we were very, very stretched at that point. We of course took a lead, early in the game, and then Brighton was able to eventually pick us off. Personally, they were lucky to get the draw, Brighton. However, in all honesty, it looked like it was coming in that last 15 minutes. So the high intensity, high press is always going to tire players out a lot more. When we went 1-0 up against Brighton, did we have to really control that game or go for that second one so urgently? Could we have backed off a little bit, controlled that game a little bit more, made it a bit more difficult for Brighton to break us down? Because we were going for that second, did it open us up towards the end because the fatigue had kicked in? Don't get me wrong, I cannot fault the Brighton striker's goal. And he is one talented player. I've got to be honest, one talented player. But you look at the game against Aston Villa, we put up a good fight against them in the draw. The West Ham match, really, could we have edged that? Rayan had a great opportunity, but could we have edged it? Did West Ham know our number? I think Nuno Espirito Santo did work it out and found out quite quickly exactly how to stop AFC Bournemouth in that match. The Sunderland game, again, another game where we could have got the 3 points, and likewise the Brentford game, we did everything but actually score. When will we beat Brentford? Overall, you look at Brentford and you think, well, that's a good result. But in all honesty, it's these narrow margins. And I think that we are a little bit better than what our recent form says. Don't get me wrong, Turf Moor is always an intimidating place to go to. But Burnley have got Scott Parker in charge. They are struggling. We are man to man better team. Zian Fleming, I thought, was very good for Burnley. He got a decent header again, created by Jaden Anthony, if I remember correctly. But Jaden was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I think if Burnley could replicate him several times over, they might have had a very different season, but under probably a different manager. They'd have to have. But it's frustrating because the draws keep coming. We don't seem to be able to kill off a game at the moment. We don't know when we're beaten. That's the good thing about us, is we keep going to the final whistle. We do pull teams back in. We do get results where we could have easily lost the game. Of course, between November and early January, there was that spell where we couldn't really buy a win. Let's take that Everton home game. Less said about it, the better. But again, Everton come with a game plan. It worked against us. We need to maybe sometimes adapt ourselves to the other side rather than being very, very fixated on exactly what works for us. maybe we do need that plan B, plan C. Um, I did say early on in Andoni Iraola's reign here, when it wasn't looking particularly good, I did say, and I'll hold my hands up. I was completely wrong with what I did say, but I did turn around and say that Andoni don't have a plan B or a plan C, and I think sometimes that is still a little bit true. I think we're good enough now to impose ourselves on the other team. We're good enough to actually put, our game across rather than playing a counteracting game, rather than counteracting what the other team are going to do. However, in every football match, if you've got a team that is very, very defensive, controls the ball well, you are going to need to adapt from that style that we are playing on a regular basis. Otherwise, you're just chasing shadows, and it tires the players out. There is no need to actually play the whole 90 minutes at that pace. Um, I've seen some negative stuff about NSU now as well online, and I don't like that because I think Ennis is a good player. He offers something a little bit different. I think sometimes we don't really play to his strengths. Um, in all honesty, when he does come on, um, what we need to do is when Ennis does get on, get those balls into the box, get them on his head, get him into positions where he hasn't got players around him where he can, because he's got great strike on him, and he's got a strike from distance as well. Get him into those positions, create those openings for him, make sure that he is able to, take a pot shot. He's not one of those players that's going to go on an amazing run. He's not one of those players. What he is he is a target man, and he's a man that, when in decent amounts of space, can create something. I like Enisu now, and I don't get some of the people that have knocked him. The team is a collective. Jordi Petrovic earlier on the season was a little bit shaky, as everybody knows. I think that's why Mandas did come in and why Fraser forced to come in. I think, with that bit of added pressure behind him, that confidence has gone up. But it's all about doing things differently, making changes when a game is going against you. We cannot play the same way against Burnley as we could do, say, for example, Arsenal, because they're two very different styles. They're two very different styles. And whilst we can impose our passage of play onto other teams, it didn't seem like either side was really going for it. So, yeah, frustrating result against Burnley, but we move on. We do need to get 3 points as soon as possible. Of course, next up is a very, very informed Manchester United. Manchester United, in all honesty, look very, very good at the moment. Of course, there was that recent defeat against Newcastle, but they have really picked up. And in all honesty, it's ever really since we had that 4-4 draw at Old Trafford. I know that they've lost 2 games the subsequent week just before Christmas. They lost against Aston Villa. They've lost against Newcastle recently. But their form is on the up, and to be honest, you've got to give Michael Carrick the job, really. At Old Trafford, I think he's done a fantastic job, and Sir Jim Radcliffe, I think he will look at it and go, right, okay, we've got to give this man a chance, because he is a man who knows that club inside out, and he is a man who I think will be, you know, will bring the spirit of Manchester United back. But we got to think about ourselves. How are we going to counteract this? This is going to be a very, very different game to the game that we played all that time ago when we played the Ruben Amorim team. How are we going to counteract this? Because this is, I tell you what, Manchester United are a completely different animal now. They really are a completely different animal. They've only had one defeat under this manager. It started to pick up, to be honest, under Amorim, but Michael Carrick has just taken it on and on and on. So we've got to be ready. We've got to know their strengths. And like I say, a draw against Manchester United, albeit won't be a bad result in the context of things, but we need to start picking up 3 points if we want to get these European places. Let me know what you think. Do you think that we can make it? Do you think how we can adapt? Do you think Iraola has got plan B, plan C? What are those plan B, plan C? And, what sort of threat do we see from Everton, who seem to grind out results on a daily basis? They are not pretty to watch, in all honesty, and to be honest, they're really dull to watch, in fact. But at the end of the day, they get the results. They're effective. Or Brentford, who, let's be fair, are a bit of a surprise package. Everybody had them tipped to go down because Keith Andrews had never managed before. In fact, he's done a fantastic job and actually taken them on from Thomas Frank. The platform which they were on, they haven't digressed at all. So you've got to keep Brentford into the mix. And of course, Sir Eddie Howe, he's going to be there as well. There is plenty of battle for those European spots. We need to make sure, though, therefore, we start picking up the results. Fulham are just right behind us, and Brighton and Sunderland are not out of it. So let us know what you think. Let us know where you see the biggest threats from. Can we do it? Have we got a plan B? And, we shall see you in the next one. Thank you again for all your support and joining us today.
The Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.